picture this. You've got a world where the fate of empires hangs by a literal thread, where ancient prophecies are calling the shots for kings and queens, and it all spirals into this massive tale of betrayal, war, and, well, a devastating wooden horse. Welcome to The Explainer. I'm your host, and today we're decoding the absolutely apocalyptic epic of the Trojan War. But here's the twist. We are doing it entirely through the lens of a first bimester 7th grade Portuguese worksheet from the St. Joseph Institute. Yeah, you heard me right. We're going to take this seemingly mundane piece of schoolwork and reveal the massive, cinematic stakes hiding right there in plain sight within its questions. So, let's just dive right into this. Imagine you're just sitting at your school desk, pencil in hands, and you are immediately hit with this. What fate do King Priam and Queen Hecuba decide to give their son to avoid the destruction of Troy? I mean, this isn't just some throwaway, multiple-choice question for half a point. We are talking about a matter of apocalyptic urgency here. The very survival of an entire civilization rests squarely on the shoulders of these two parents, and this impossible choice they have to make regarding their newborn child. Now, the source material we're looking at for this apocalyptic survival test is a very specific mythological retelling. It's Luis Galdino's book, O Rapto de Helena, which translates to The Abduction of Helen. Every correct answer on this test, every single true or false statement, builds the canon of this specific narrative. So by simply deciphering this test, we are going to reconstruct the epic from start to finish, totally guided by Professor Idalba's Bimester exam. All right, let's get into Section 1, a Queen's Dark Prophecy, the Dream of Destruction. To understand the end of an empire, we really have to start at the very beginning. Long before the war, long before the wooden horse, there was a dream. Question 2 on our exam just cuts right to the chase, asking about a terrifying prophecy made by a figure named Esau regarding Queen Hecuba's nightmare. And the text lays it out completely bare. The queen's nightmare is a direct omen foretelling the utter destruction of Troy. Think about the cinematic revadas here. Before the prince is even a factor, the dread is fully established. The royal family knows their beloved city is marked for death, and they are desperately looking for a way out. So the crucial point is how they actually react to this doom. Question 3 drops 3 massive alternate realities on us. Do they raise him in a safe place to outsmart destiny? Do they make the ultimate, horrifying sacrifice and just kill the boy so Troy can be spared? Or do they choose the third option, which is sending the son away to be raised by a couple of pastors as an ordinary person so he never even knows his true origin? The correct answer on the test, the actual canon path, is the third one. They choose exile and anonymity, really hoping a humble pastor's life will hide him from the eyes of fate. But as we all know from literally any great epic, you absolutely cannot outrun destiny. Which brings us to Section 2. The prince returns. Destiny cannot be outrun. So the boy, Paris, grows up. But the truth can't stay buried forever, right? Question 5 on the worksheet asks exactly how Paris is finally recognized as the true son of King Priam and the heir to the throne. And the options presented are these fantastic narrative forks in the road. Does his brother, the prophet Helenus, spot him amidst the blood and dirt of war? Does Helena recognize him in Sparta and fall in love? Or does his sister Cassandra see through his disguise at a public event? This brilliantly illustrates the sheer power of prophecy in these ancient stories. It's actually the second option that's correct. Cassandra, the daughter of Priam and Hecuba, who is gifted with prophecy, is the one who shatters the illusion. During the funeral games, while Paris is still just living his life as a humble pastor, he wins. And in that precise moment of victory, Cassandra recognizes him. The hidden prince is brought right back into the royal fold, and that countdown to Troy's destruction, it resumes. So now the stage is totally set. Our prince is back in power. But the actual spark that ignites the war happens across the sea. Let's look at Section 3, Abduction in Sparta, the Spark of War. Question 7 is this chronological jumble that students have to put in order. And I'm telling you, it reads like a fast-paced political thriller. Let's unsnarl this chronology of chaos together. Week 1 starts with Tyndareus seeking the cunning advice of Ulysses, which leads to Menelaus being chosen as Helen's husband. Week 2, tragedy strikes. Menelaus leaves to mourn his grandfather, and foolishly entrusts Helen to the care of Paris, who happens to be visiting. Week 3, Paris wastes no time. He seduces Helen and convinces her to flee with him. Week 4 gives us a really heartbreaking detail from the test. Helen's daughter, Hermione, actually watches her mother leave. By week 5, Menelaus returns to an empty home. He is absolutely furious and calls upon his brother Agamemnon. And finally, week 6, the seer Calcante drops the hammer. This single act of betrayal is going to trigger a grueling 10-year war against the Trojans. 10 years. Just let that sink in for a second. A full decade of bloodshed over a stolen queen. That leads us right into Section 4, War and the Horse, a decade of bloodshed. Let's transition to the conflict itself, guided by the true or false battleground of Question 8. This question pits a series of statements against each other, and it paints a stark, really unflattering picture of our so-called hero, Paris. One of the true statements confirms his absolute cowardice. When he's called to fight by Menelaus, Paris is terrified and actually begs his adversary for mercy. Contrast this with the Greeks, specifically the cunning of Ulysses. Another true statement reveals Ulysses successfully traveling to the island of Tenedos to retrieve Hercules' weapons, returning to kill Paris. You really see the characters' true natures forged and revealed in the fire of this conflict.
But here's the thing. Even with Hercules' weapons, the walls of Troy are just too strong. This brings us to Question 9, a fill-in-the-blank question, that basically acts as our ultimate cinematic plot twist. What was the plan devised to end a war that had dragged on for 10 whole years? Well, Menelaus and Agamemnon realize that the security of the Trojans is locked safely inside their walls. The answer? They planned together to build a huge wooden horse to bypass those impenetrable walls and destroy Troy from the inside out. I mean, it's the ultimate endgame strategy.
The walls fall, the city burns. The prophecy from the very beginning of our test is fulfilled. This brings us to Section 5, the lovers reunited. The bitter-sweet aftermath. So what happens to the people left standing in the ashes? The final question of the test, Question 11, is a matching exercise that acts as the ultimate psychological profiling of our ancient caste, defining them forever in the historical record of the 7th grade class. Just look at these traits. King Priam is remembered as honorable and courageous. Paris, the guy who started it all, goes down as fickle and cowardly. Queen Hecuba is worried about Troy, yet submissive to fate. Helena is beautiful, but submissive to her father. And Ulysses? Always cunning, always intelligent. This isn't just a grading key, guys. It's the legacy of these mythological titans, distilled into just 2 words each. And that brings us to the haunting duality inspired by Question 10. The test asks the student to find quotes expressing both Menelaus' love for his wife upon their reunion and the bitter indignation and disapproval of the Spartan people regarding his choice to take her back. How do we even weigh that? An entire empire was destroyed. Countless lives were lost over 10 years. Was it worth it for love? Or was it an act of supreme selfishness that completely ruined a civilization? That is the ultimate question this worksheet leaves us with. So the next time you see a seemingly boring school assignment, look a little closer. There might just be an epic, cinematic masterpiece hiding in the multiple choice questions. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. I'll catch you on the next explainer.